We were all very active in the farm, lived in the tractor with Dad. My older brother was my best mate.
Yeah.
The police come to our door and then it was in the middle of the night. There'll be no amount of money that'll ever make me happy.
I always joke about hindsight that if we ever meet him, I'm going to punch him in the face.
Oh, I stuffed it up, right? It's collect the bloody money, Sam.
And then you just went, she's dead. And it is the quietest this building has ever been.
Like, I was on my own. Who was I going to ring? I didn't believe it. I needed to know. I needed to know more. I just said, I need you, Dad. Can you come? Can't believe I'm crying on a bloody top.
Hello everyone, my name's Graham Strang, and I hope my younger self is listening. Today's guest has lived a life shaped by farming roots, family resilience, and learning the hard way. From country Victoria to Warra, Queensland, from DJing to plumbing and running a growing business, Sam's story is one of overcoming, rebuilding, staying grounded through it all. Please welcome Sam Collins. Welcome, mate.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
That's right. Want to get straight into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So, let's go early. Growing up, what shaped what you did, who you become, life in those early years around your schooling and home, farm?
I think the farming background has always been there for me, but early as a child, I just took to hanging in with Dad. So Dad was the most important person for me, and my older brother, which we'll get to later on. Well, I grew up. I was born in Warracknabeal in Victoria, a small country town. Our farm was at Beulah, which is up the road north, and so it's in the Mallee in Victoria. It's beautiful country down there. We don't quite often visit anymore because all the farms got bigger and people take them over. But every time I go there, it feels like home. Like it just smells like home.
No, coming from Winton, I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Who's home?
Yeah, it's strange.
I always laugh going down the street and everyone just nods at you, and then you haven't seen them for 15 years, they nod at you.
Yeah. And like in those days, the family was everyone was together.
Yeah.
So my grandfather had a farm, Dad had a farm. All his siblings weren't farmers. So Dad calls them the people that want to take and not give, and those kind of things. And I didn't go to school in Victoria. My older brother did. He started school. And I still have some very vivid memories of even a kid of 3.
Just being on the farm.
Just being on the farm. In Victoria on the farm.
So what's your earliest memory?
We used to get lots of dust storms.
Oh.
And because it's very sandy, the country, the dust would, and I remember we're in the ute and I was with my brother, and I think my younger brother was just born, probably just before we moved up here to Queensland, and we're in the ute and you just could not see in front.
We used to get the dust storms in Winton, and Mum would be shutting louvers everywhere and be cranky for about 2 days because that fine film that gets all over.
It's a clean the house too.
Yeah.
But the biggest one, my grandparents have always said this about Sam, that one of the windstorms, it blew the back door off the grandpa's house, and I was in there and it scared the crap out of me. And I went running down the hallway and hid somewhere, and Gran always reminded me of that for a long time. Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. Like, I always ask, what is the earliest memory around then? Because I struggle to remember much of our stuff. Mine is we had the oil guys coming through, and they had these big whacker-packer things that belt the ground and look at seismic stuff.
Yeah.
Well, I
shoot a shotgun shell into the ground or something.
Yeah, something like that. No, I was somewhere there, and to the same thing. This thing's gone whack, and Dad tells a story of me, bloody half bare ass, running up the road, scared.
I reckon they say if you can remember something from being that young, I reckon it jigs you into like you've probably got some kind of movement about you.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. So you talk about your schools. You said you moved around a lot.
We did eventually. So when we moved to Queensland, so Mum and Dad bought a property called South Wyobe. So it's in between Warra and Jandowie on a road. The farm was a mess when Dad bought it. lots of old, like farms used to be, lots of little fences, yards, and I think we had 1,200 acres there, which was a big holding in those days because most people in the district only had 300 or 400 acres. So Dad took on quarter, and he was farming both of the farms at the same time. So he was still farming in Victoria, catching him a Cafferty's bus or a greyhound, whichever was running. But he does have some interesting stories about sitting on the bus. I don't think that went on for too long, but he's like me. He doesn't really give much away.
No.
But we moved to Warra, and those years we were there to 1991. So from 83 to 91, they were the best years of our life. Really, they were. And Dad always says it too. Like it was.
So where did you end up going to school?
Went to Warra State School until 1991. So I was 11.
Did you drive your teachers nuts?
Yeah, I was a terrible kid.
I reckon you would have been.
Mum says I was a terrible kid, but I also wasn't an irresponsible kid either.
No. And that was my job.
But I used to sit on, so we had larger equipment, so we brought it all from Victoria. Yeah. So doing broadacre farming was a little bit unnatural to them, the people around us. And Dad used to work at night time. And they never really liked that because the lights of the tractors through the trees, and the farms are spread out.
They think something was coming through.
Yeah, he was upsetting people because we were from Victoria.
Doing it differently.
We were treated probably a little bit different to other people.
So did you spend more time on a tractor than at school?
Lived in the tractor with Dad. And a carton of Winnie Reds that was in there with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a different world, isn't it?
Oh, wait.
Little open cab stuff? Or?
No, that was closed cab. But no, Dad always smoked like a train.
Yeah.
Just can't remember the windows ever being open. But we had modern equipment for then.
Yeah.
And it was all air conditioned. But as I got older, my brother and I would sneak a packet of Winnie Reds occasionally. But
did your father know?
Of course he would have.
Of course he would. They all knew you, didn't they?
Does anyone take something out of your fridge, Graham? You know it's missing, don't you?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm sure a carton of cigarettes with a packet missing, he would have known.
You know, you got lots of amazing, happy memories as all these stories through, but there is some tragedy in there.
There is, yeah. And that's sort of come a bit, it's sort of come a little bit later on. So Mum and Dad sold Warra, South Wyoming in 1991, or the end of 91 or beginning, which was forced sale. So in that era, that's when bank interest rates were 18, 19%. Every family farm in Australia pretty well suffered. And they were closing up everywhere. So we were just part of them.
Yeah, next on the list.
We were next on the list. Yep. I think Mum and Dad could have continued, but it would have been tough. Would have made it worse, probably. But I wasn't old enough to know the economics. But my older brother he was 15, and we were all very active in the farm. So we started growing cotton in 1986, which was, there wasn't very many people in the district growing cotton as well, which was a very interesting time because cotton poisons everybody, apparently, to the people that are uneducated, chemicals, all that. So we got pointed at by the locals a bit, but Dad was trying to be proactive, and I think that's where I get my drive from. It's don't do the normal, or use adverse events to push your way through it. So I got off track there.
I know you got off track.
Well, I had to try and fit that in the timeline.
That's right.
Because, and there's a little, like, Dad and my older brother, they had a terrific relationship. So I was sort of put on the side because I was 5 years younger. So I was the football in the middle. But I spent a lot of time with Dad. Annoyingly to him, he hated it. But now he doesn't. Because he thinks back on that. That was a great time. But you've got to, so once we sold up there, we moved down to Colorado. So Dad took a job at Collie Farms Cotton. You might have heard.
Yeah, no, Collie Farms is,
he was the farming manager for Collie Farms. And again, that was a terrific time. Us as kids loved it. But doing that, my older brother had to ship off to boarding school because I wasn't quite in high school yet. So he went to Toowoomba. Finished his time there. So I think we were still at Collymongol Station in Colorado till 1993. Then we moved to Toowoomba
Yep.
Well, there was Dad had another job in between, but it was short-lived. So we come to, hence the lots of schools. So I went to Warra State School, Colorado Central School, Moree East State School, and Moree Tech High.
You're
4 grades.
Well, we come from North Star, so...
Oh, yeah.
exactly.
Just as bad.
Yeah.
So in the space of 3 years, I went to all of those schools.
So no wonder you're a good student.
Really hard to learn in there, like in Colorado, obviously the demographics a little bit different to what it is here in Toowoomba. Very hard to learn because there's a lot of ruckus in the classroom.
There's a lot of differences between grammar and...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and then once high school came, we got to Toowoomba. I went to Toowoomba Grammar School.
Yeah.
And terrific, fixed me up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
quickly.
Very quickly.
But in that period, so this is where it becomes a bit sore for my parents and for me as well, because my older brother was my best mate.
Yeah.
So he was killed in a car accident. He was working on a property in Warriolda. And they had a kitchen. So they had an on-farm kitchen.
Yep.
But it had closed for the night, so they chuffed off into town. And he wasn't, so there was 3 of them in an old Falcon ute, and they took off into town and never got there. But he wasn't driving, so I'm trying to remember. So he was the passenger on that side, and those utes, they used to have 3 seats. You would have had a ute like that, and so did I. There was another girl, her name was Jackie, in the middle, and the driver was Tim. But unbeknownst to Jackie and my brother Simon, Tim had indulged himself in a few too many beers because he wasn't. Jackie and Simon were still working. This is my take on it.
Yeah.
Because me being sneaky, I wanted to know what happened. And Mum and Dad had a box of stuff, and I
Pulled it to bits.
And read it. It wasn't hard to read either. I thought it might be.
So,
some bits were. But
so how did you start to establish that he obviously wasn't sober?
Reading. This was probably a time period later.
Yep.
Because obviously there's a process to it.
Yeah.
But the police come to our door, and then it was in the middle of the night, so obviously there's a process. It's probably by the time we got, it must have been 2 o'clock in the morning. And my bedroom was at the front of the house, so I got to the door. Because I was like, who the hell? And I was 14 at the time. So I was like, who the fucking hell? And this must have been a clutter between Dad and I and Mum. I don't, like who was to the door.
Yeah.
And, I got the gist. I knew what had happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually thought it was probably my grandparents, to be honest, and wondering, but it turned out. And then I took myself back to bed. But, by the time Mum had found out, and it was sort of unbearable for me, as you can imagine.
Oh, absolutely. And would it change the dynamic in your house?
Totally.
Yeah. Because as we'll touch on later, grief is a very strange, evil creature.
Evil
to just tears people apart.
Does, yeah.
What did you talk about your dad knew now with losing your brother like that? Did it take a long time to get the household back to where it felt like you were back to being one piece again, or?
Yeah, probably 20 years.
Yeah.
Probably.
Look, I only know from Tila losing her olds, as young as they were, it took her 3 or 4 years to even get back to remotely the human she was.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. Like we'll find out more in a minute, but I didn't know how to take it, and I was 14, so it's very influential in your life. And Dad took it extremely well, because I suppose he's the man of the house. And I think maybe that's when I realised that you have to be strong. You have to be, regardless of the situation. But he was hurting, and still is.
Oh, look, and the bits of the story you've told, there's no, there's resentment, there's anger, there's sadness, there's...
Oh, yeah, and I think, maybe, and I think this is my take, I think maybe my mother resented me a little bit after that happened, because we did have a good relationship, even though I was a mongrel of a kid.
Yeah.
She taught me to cook, keep a clean house. She was very disciplined, old school discipline, but also made laugh sometimes, and those things. But that happening totally changed our household. It was not a very good time. And of course, the step down to my younger brother was 3 years. So and my sister's 6 years younger than me. So they weren't really old enough to understand what had happened. Yeah. And they probably still don't, because the relationship my older brother and I had was deep.
Yeah.
We hated each other. but
good...
but you love each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mum and Dad shipped him, going back to when we were at Warra, he went to Gatton Egg College for I forget what it was, like a trial.
Yeah.
Or an orientation week. Something like that, when he was 15. And I bawled my bloody eyes out in the car, because we used to fight and carry on, and then Mum's like, well, you two hate each other. I thought you'd be glad that he's gone, and, I suppose that's when
Yeah, and that's the hard thing with family stuff, at times, on the outside, it looks like it's nothing but Kilkenny cats.
Yeah.
But it's that when something happens and something goes wrong that, you're there. I got your back, it's fine, don't worry about it. All that other stuff just goes out the window.
Yeah.
And that's when you really know.
Well, right before he died, he come to Toowoomba in the middle of the night, had to pick a part up from Kestner, which is out on McDougall Street. And he come and got me in the room. He said, oh, come on, I got a new Hilux from work, and, I'll take you for a run out and go and pick this part up. And that's the last time I saw him. And then he went back there that night.
But it sounds like you've stored the memories well, though.
Yeah.
Because...
But I haven't even told these stories until now.
Oh, right.
Not those ones. No, my wife wouldn't know that.
All right. Oh.
No.
But he said it, not me.
Well, I think maybe sometimes that you forget those things until you're prompted by, we're sitting here talking, and when you asked me to come on, that I thought maybe there'll be things that'll come up that are unexpected.
But that is also relationships too. I mean, like Ted and I have been together 15 years, and I tell stories about stuff, and she just looks at me sideways sometimes and goes, "What? When was that?" Like, oh, didn't I tell you that? No, sorry. But when you talk about your work life and your plumbing and moving from there, they said you were 14, 15. You hadn't even finished school yet.
No, well, I was at grammar, so that was in my first year at grammar, so I was in grade 8. So I didn't even get through the year. Then that happened in September. So what's that, term 3?
Yeah, so I'm assuming you didn't go back to school.
I did.
Huh?
The headmaster heroes from the school came to the house the same day. Well, because my brother went to grammar, so he's an old boy.
Yep.
That same day he came to the house, which is extraordinary. I didn't think that had happened.
No, got me too. So did you have to go back? Did you?
Well, I think we had a gap of a week.
Yeah.
But, of course, you got to go back to the real world.
Yeah.
And Mum and Dad, even though with all their grief, and they hit it quite well. Like, Mum and Dad had to do a funeral,
A pickup.
We didn't even have I don't even think Mum and Dad had the money to pay for any of this.
And you would have had to go down there and pick up his life and everything as well. And,
Yep.
I know from...
Dad had just bought him a Gemini, which he hated because he wanted a Ute. But that's all. And Dad always provided for Simon because he's the oldest, and he was very responsible. Like, he would not drink.
Yep.
His bookwork, everything, his schoolwork's written in cursive. It's like a computer over there.
Yeah.
So he earned what he got from Mum and Dad.
Yep.
Even though they were small things. Like a Holden Gemini back then was probably $400.
Yeah. Well, and you go back to mid-90s, you're spending $2 or $3 grand, $4 grand on a car now.
Well, my first Ute was like a $3,000 old bang.
My first car was a Mazda 323 panel van. It was a rocket. Not after I wrecked that one. Look, and there's going to be a lot more of this side of things we're going to get into later.
There is,
unfortunately. Oh, no, but it's all good. It's part of the story.
It is part of the story, yes.
But I did mention DJing, so...
I did do a bit of
You did.
DJing.
So we're gonna venture into some of your work life. We're gonna have to go from a bit of quietness into a bit of funny stuff. So, first jobs: family farm, fruit mart, DJing at high school. I want to know about DJing.
Oh, look, I don't even know how I got into it.
I'm just trying to imagine you as a DJ with the headphones on and
Belfast good at it, apparently. Well, they wouldn't have got me to come back.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and because I was a country music fan.
yeah.
So normal music didn't really interest me. It was songs like Pretty Fly for a White Girl.
Yeah.
Those songs were coming out when I started doing DJing. And then I started putting stuff together, and I worked with Dad's mate from work. Obviously, Dad had a job in town. I used to call him Uncle Anthony, and he got me this job with him DJing for Vito.
So where would you DJ at? Just parties and things?
Oh, parties, weddings.
Yeah.
Oh, we went to this joint in Steenethorpe. We didn't even get into the place. This is the funny part of DJ. We went there to do a job. We couldn't get in there. The joint had been trashed. It was a wedding party, and they just had
wipe the place.
a massive brawl before we even started, and we just turned around and left. I mean, it was down Warwick or Steenethorpe somewhere. Yeah, we used to do pubs, school socials. I used to like them because that was in my age group, because I started when I was 18 in grade 12. I didn't do it for too long, but it was good money. I think I used to get $200 a weekend.
Which was huge. That's huge money.
It was huge money back then.
Well, my jackarooing wage in 1995 was $305 a week, I think it was.
Oh, you got more than me. Well, we'll get to the plumbing in a minute.
Yeah, get to the plumbing because you were. That's on my list here. Is it your plumbing, which your dad helped you into or helped you?
He did. I was working. So when I left school, I got a job as an electrician to start with, which I didn't put in our little questionnaire, but it didn't work out because I probably have a little bit more manual work ethic than electricians have. Now, someone's going to kill me for that.
I was about to say, I know about 5 blokes who'll get the message from after they watch this.
It's all right. They know it too. But I did enjoy the job. It was pretty repetitive. But the boss I had, he was, I don't know why, but I did my job as I was told. But just one day he said to me, "Oh, you're not listening, and we don't want you here anymore." And I saw a bit of anger to that because not only did I put in extra that I could not even see after working with Dad and being disciplined and having several other jobs where I did what I was told.
Yeah.
You don't back chat.
Yeah. Not getting that answer on why.
Well, yeah, and he didn't. I think it was just an excuse, just to work was a bit thin then. Because in the late 90s, the work was thin.
Yeah.
It was hard to get a job.
I spent most of my 90s on the same sheep and cattle place. So.
Yeah. Well, I went and worked after that. I went and worked on a grain farm for some family friends out at Mandara, and I was planting wheat, just sitting on a tractor, which I'm good at, and the implement. And then Dad rang the house phone one night, and he said he'd found me a job with Alan Miller, who owns Jackron Plumbing in town here. And I rang. So me being the moron child my mother used to call me, but I was responsible, and I rang Alan myself as an 18-year-old, and I said, I'll come in and I'll do the job, but I need to finish what I'm doing first. And I think that's what, his ears might have sparked up a bit there. I said, I've got 1 week left here and I'll finish what I'm doing, and then I'll come in. It's about responsibilities.
I could tell you employing here, I appreciate people who say, look, even we've got staff who've done that, who go, I've got these commitments first, and then I'll come to you. I actually respect that more than the other ones who pull the pin and leave people in the lurch.
Well, that's what I want too. Like, as you know, running a business, and we'll get into this.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. Where were we?
We were talking about Alan.
Jacko, his name is. Old school, hard, but fair.
No prisoners.
No prisoners. No. I probably couldn't have done my apprenticeship in a better place.
We talk about blokes like that. I mean, where I jackarooed, we was 4 of us, 18. We landed all within about a month of each other, all virtually sent there by our fathers because we were all just wild. And Jim, who was a lot like Alan, I don't know, if he hadn't have been the way he was, I don't know, but he shaped all of us.
Yeah. I think maybe I didn't need direction. I just needed to find the spot that suited me the best. Farming would have.
Yeah.
Because that's my immediate passion, but Dad told me no. And I understand why.
So how long did you work for Alan for? Well, Jacko.
5 years.
5 years?
Yeah. I was committed to.
Yeah. And you went and worked for yourself after that?
I did.
Did he help you into that?
No.
No.
That was a bit sore.
So,
But it took him a year to talk to me after. But I give him plenty of notice. I don't actually think he thought that I'd go. I give him probably 8 months' notice that I wanted to leave and have a change.
so what made you want to go do it yourself?
Well, I probably didn't, but I probably wanted a little bit more money than what I was giving. Maybe that drove me to say, well, maybe I'll try it. But I've got this burn inside of me that some self-accomplishment is the key.
Yep.
There'll be no amount of money that'll ever make me happy, right?
Yep, same.
There'll be no amount of work that'll ever make me stress more than I do every day.
You know, Taylor often asked me, what do you want out of all this? What's your plan? I said, I just want to succeed at it.
Yeah. And I picked something. I picked plumbing. And I've had some breaks from plumbing in between, not long breaks.
Yeah.
But burnout breaks, I think. Reset time. And for particular reasons too.
Oh, we can get into that. So when you started your business, your then partner, Beck Mitchell,
Correct.
supported you and helped you do it all?
We were madly in love.
Madly in love?
Yep. I've got a slight story.
Slight story?
My best mate.
Idleness.
You won't even believe this. My best mate from school, they owned a property at Jindawi called Gottenburn, and they sold that in the year 2000 and they moved to Toowoomba. And then I met this girl, Beck, at the Spotted Cow Hotel, of course.
That's so original. Met someone at the Cow in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't in the 90s. It was 2003, I reckon. And
mind you, the Cow was still hot then.
it was hot.
Yeah.
It was hot. It died off considerably just after that. And we started sort of courting for a couple of weeks. And she said, I'll take you to meet Mum and Dad. She always got confused. She come from Longreach.
Yeah.
So they're Mitchell's from Longreach. She always got confused saying up and down. So you goes, I'll take you down to see Mum and Dad on their place. But we had to go up to Jindawi. And then she didn't even tell me where it was. And I was driving. She goes, I'll turn in here. Where do you think it was? I knew that farm better than them. It was my best mate from school. And I thought, and I thought then that happened for an absolute reason. And it did. Because that relationship was amazing.
And obviously part of the building the business and doing that with her and things. And
Yeah, she helped. She was doing uni.
yeah.
She was a nurse. Same as my wife now.
Yep.
Again.
And obviously with everything I know about you, that ceased at some point.
It did. And it was devastating for me. Because she got a placement in Cairns.
Yep.
With nursing. And I had intention of moving there, but things,
As they do.
it just drifted apart. Because I couldn't leave the business here. And I think the total reason for that happened is because I'm so pig-headed. I should have just packed up.
Yeah.
But that burn.
Yeah.
We had a big job on. We were doing a motel in Gatton. And I just couldn't leave it. But I was going.
Just took a bit.
Yeah, he took a bit, but it was very upsetting. Yeah, that was probably a big thing in my life that took me a long time to get over.
And you learn lessons from those things. You talk about the pig-headedness and making a decision, and you know, I always joke about hindsight that if we ever meet him, I'm going to punch him in the face.
Yeah.
But it does happen for a reason.
It does happen for a reason. I didn't see it then, and I probably could have made it better because we weren't not amicable. Well, we never used to fight, you know. It's just I stuffed it up, growing.
That's what we're getting to. Just waiting for you to say it.
Yeah, I did it, and that it's one of your life regrets. Everybody has them.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think today, where would I be? What? But it's done.
I do that occasionally too, but you can't.
It still upset me, but it still upsets me to this day.
Hard bit is you can't control it.
No.
That's when I get into trouble. I go and get your hand on and patrol.
No, because it's your whole world moves. Your whole world, Kate, and you know, and you don't see it at the time. Like it was right at the point of business that was important. We were just starting, you know, and then of course the bills come in. I'm drinking myself to death, trying to reconcile what I'm doing with life.
And trying to make sense of it all. And
yeah, it was hard.
Yeah, and the trouble is, and as some of the stuff we'll talk about later, there's only so long you can beat yourself up.
Oh yeah, I snapped out of it. Like it took a while, but it probably took me a financial hit for me to wake up and go, shit, I won't be able to eat all.
So that was the distraction because you didn't have your eye on the ball over here.
Yeah, I lost it. I had complete focus, and it was tricky. We had a couple of builders, and we had a couple of builders go broke on us. Yeah, first year of business. We had lots of people not paying their bills, and of course, this comes to one of your questions that you give me.
Yep.
What would you change? It's collect the bloody money, Sam.
Yep.
Don't be scared to ask people that owe you money for the money. And that's I failed at that.
Look, I've learnt myself that it's just, in the end, they owe you money.
I was too nice.
Yep.
I was way too nice. I've always been a nice person. And you have your moments. But I've always give people the benefit of the doubt.
My learning lesson around collecting money was being owed a fairly significant amount of cash and being told that, they haven't paid, poor, but then being connected to these people on social media, and then I saw photos of the Hayman Island holiday.
Yeah, that gets up my dog.
That was when I stopped being as nice. I realised that that's a 20 grand holiday. They owe me something similar to that. Even if they just given you a bit of a tick in the box and then gone on their way, I probably would have been okay. But to get the sob story and then seeing them in the bathroom with the gold-plated taps, I just went red.
Well, then it escalates, doesn't it? Like, then the plumbing supplier rings you.
Yeah.
The ATA is on your back.
Yep.
Whoever you owe money to is ringing.
And they're
opening your door.
And they're not being nice.
And then because of all that other stuff that was happening, I'm like hiding under a blanket in the hallway because people are knocking on your door wanting their money. But I'm not collecting my money. And it still took a little bit after that for me to go, right, I need to get my money. I couldn't get all the uncontrolled stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking little amounts. I'm talking hundreds of thousands of dollars that we'll never get. Never see.
No, you're talking about the loss of relationship, the financial strain, nearly losing the business, being too nice and not getting paid. The other thing that we probably haven't touched too much on is burnout.
Yeah, burnout.
One of the things I know that in an early stage that you burnt yourself out completely.
Probably even, I did. When I started, I was probably working 7 days a week. We were doing project builders. I didn't have any employees when I started, but I did have a good apprentice probably halfway through the first year, and I saw him nearly through the course. And he was a great guy. His name's Bill, William Dennis. G'day, Bill.
Yeah, Bill.
And he is an excellent plumber. He turned out to be a really good plumber, and he helped me along. But gee whiz, we had some tough times. I always paid the wage. We had Downs Group
Yep.
guys come in occasionally, and I got whacked with this absolute killer bill from Downs Group one time, and I just looked at it, and I just, with despair, because the builders weren't paying, the work was getting done, but we're just...
Still working for nothing.
Yeah, we were working for nothing. I reckon I did $2 million worth of work for minus $100,000 worth of money.
And it's hard to explain to people who haven't worked for themselves at times. It's a different weight. Just looking at the people you can't pay, the staff you can't pay.
We've got to deal with multiple things. The banks, the tax office.
And they get their pound of flesh first.
Both of those are first.
Yep.
Then my groceries were non-existent. You know.
So your health would have been interesting.
Awful.
Yep.
Drinking, lots.
Yep. Because there's carbs in that.
Yeah, it's carbs in that. Owing people money is an awful, awful thing. If I was that way inclined, some people just puts like water off a duck's back. They don't care.
Yep.
I used to sit up all night worrying about it, and I still do it now.
No, I do.
Even though I can pay the bills, I worry about where the next dollar's going to come from. And I always worry about how am I going to pay that bill.
But I know the feeling. Tia will worry about me because there's nights I will just be lying there looking at the roof, and I'm almost, it's either the gif you see of the guy moving the pieces around on the whiteboard with all the numbers in the calculations. It's me going, are we going to be right? Yep. Have we got this? Have we got that? Of course we're going to be right. But my brain is going, but are we?
My brain's this massive pie chart.
Yep.
And it goes like this. And it doesn't stop ticking. Last night was a perfect example. I woke up at 1 o'clock this morning and I was sending emails, and I did a couple, and I thought, you idiot, what are you doing? But you can't get back to sleep. I'm this mad mongrel person that just can't let anything go. If it's not right, if we haven't done something right at work, or it looks not right, or I'm not happy with it, it'll bug me for years. It just has to be fixed.
Yeah.
And or if one of the employees does it, it's not necessarily their fault.
But it's still
I have to bear the responsibility of the mistake, regardless of what it is.
And like here, I have a thing that if it's wrong, you fix it. I always had this distaste of trying to sell someone a half-finished whatever it is.
Yeah.
I've buggered stuff for you in the early years, and I just replace it.
Yeah, we do that now. I reckon it's a money-driven thing, because in the yesteryear, I would try and avoid having to fix it because I knew we couldn't afford to do it. They were never ever big things either. They were just annoying, niggling things. Now, if someone rings me and says this needs to be fixed or that needs to be redone, it's done.
But it's hard though, because I find that that's your work reflecting back at you. So if that person wants to recommend you and then they look at the work, regardless of what it is, that could affect your neck. That could be a major client that's had someone's brother-in-law going, oh, that bloke did that for you.
Yeah, and it still does now. And we're not immune from that now, because the bigger you grow, the more employees you get, they're going to stuff things up.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's not necessarily their fault. It can either come down to training, laziness, or that's just how their perception of how to do it. But it can cost you something in your business, and it does. Sometimes you just have to man up and just say, we've made the mistake.
Yep.
And I do it more readily now than ever before. I'll say, we've made that mistake. Well, it's I've made the mistake.
Yep, I've made the mistake. Doesn't matter who did it.
We'll fix it.
Yep.
But then there's always a protest from someone. If we think we haven't made a mistake, I will fight
tooth and nail
down to the bottom, not to fix it.
You talk about that burnout, because once you have burnout, it kills your motivation.
Yeah, it does. I reckon probably in the course of the last, I'm coming up to 23 years of business. I reckon it's happened 4 times.
I've been doing this 15. I've had it. I've had it where I've just sat at home and gone,
yeah, I'll just put my phone down, and you'll want to cry, but it's not a cry feeling. I think it's the male desperate look. Me as a man, the desperation of that nobody is there to help you. You've got to do it on your own, and you just can't today, or this week, or for the next 2 months.
I've always really struggled, even to my wife, being able to try and explain that.
Oh, my wife's the same. I love my wife. She hates me in a loving way, and I don't mean that like you would take that. I think she hates that I just see the good in everything, and I just fix it somehow.
Look, Vicky and Taylor would get along immensely because I'm always in trouble because they're like, nah, they're all right.
Yeah. Yes.
Little part of your brain going, no, they're not.
Yeah, we've got a little employee drama this week, and she's like, nah, get rid of him, like it's done, we're done, we're not getting any. And I was like, I just want him to ring me and tell me what's going on in his life so then I can help him out. Because I really want to do that, because this particular person is a really good kid. And I want to know. Well, I won't tell you the whole story because, it's still ongoing. But he just never showed up for work. And I want to know what's going on. Because I'll help him and try to guide him into the right spot.
And then your wife looks at you like you're utterly crazy.
She's like, nah, he's gone. And that's fine. She's allowed to feel that way because not being in business, and now she's learning after being married to me for long enough.
But you need that. We need that emotion coming out. We know emotions not coming out as we're in all sorts.
Yeah, I need her and she needs me because otherwise we'd be broken.
Absolutely.
And it's totally frustrating. Like running a business is not for marriage.
Then you work together.
That was like dumb as a lot. That's the way you're an idiot. But
I can tell you, we have silent domestics, where it's almost that mental communication of but it's that love and trust you have of your partner that says, okay, cool, we can have the little and then just get on with it.
And I don't think there's anyone else on this planet that I trust more than my wife.
No, absolutely.
Because she's never done the wrong thing by me. She's there when I need her. As much as I'm frustrating and...
Well, before we get into the full business side, we've got to get into the not fun stuff.
No.
So we're going to talk about Steph.
So you start with what? So you start with when I come into the shop here.
Okay. So...
Or do I need to tell, or do I need to...
No, so you've been shopping with us 2 or 3 years by that time?
Probably, yeah.
You were building the house.
This will make me feel better, you telling me this bit.
Yeah.
Then I won't start crying.
Oh, you're still probably going to cry.
Probably.
You're building the house out there because you'd been...
Her parents had a shed on a little farm. Yep. Dad and I were fixing that up.
Yep.
So I think we were either going to move in there or to fix her parents' house up in town. It was one of the two.
Yeah.
Because my house, again...
But you were getting ready to make home. We
were getting ready to make home.
Yeah, and because you've been telling us about it coming in and out. Steph
used to come in here all the time.
Yeah, she'd come in, tell us what was happening, because we wouldn't see you for months at a time because you were in the bottom of a drain somewhere, and fill us in with everything that was happening. All very fond of her.
Well, she saved me.
All right.
Because there was probably, in between Beck and Steph, there were relationships, but they probably weren't good, meaningful. Or they were, but they just didn't. Well, they weren't. There was a couple. And when I met Steph, it was... The story of me meeting her is amazing.
Do you want to tell it before I tell this? Or you want to tell it after?
No, you do.
We'll do this. We'll tell that after because that's a really happy one. So then none of us understood, but you guys all disappeared for a while. Would have been 6-7 months, something like that, maybe a touch longer.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. And you had an order sitting here, which I rang and chased and emailed. And
I wouldn't answer my phone.
You wouldn't even looked. And Sarah Stinton and I were here I think Bronwyn might have been here then.
Bronwyn was here,
Yeah,
yes.
Bronwyn was here. And you walked in and Sarah went, "Hi, Sam, haven't seen you ages. What have you been doing?" And you were holding a notebook. And it said, "Steph's notebook says I have shorts to pick up."
Correct.
And then you half teared up and Sarah goes, "Well, no, where's Steph?" And then you just went, "She's dead."
Mm.
And it is the quietest this building has ever been.
Yeah, probably didn't mean it to come out like that, but
No, but
And-
the whole place just froze. And we still didn't really know what happened because you didn't really tell us very much.
No, and I did the same thing in the week of Steph's funeral,
Yeah.
and we'll have to do this in different bits because this is just how it's going to come
That's
out.
fine.
I had to go to the barber shop to get my bloody hair cut, didn't I? And I did exactly. Chloe has been cutting my hair at Joel's barber shop for 20 years. I didn't have a note, but I just looked at her and I said, "Oh, I can't talk today." And I was very, very upset. And it's a strange feeling. I was walking down the street. I just felt like everyone was looking at me.
When no one probably
No one was. I was so alone.
So you got the shorts, paid for them at the till, and then you walked out. I wasn't 100% in the loop. I couldn't work out why Bronwyn and Sarah were a disaster.
Well, they probably knew, but they never put it together.
They hadn't put it together because I think I was over at the office here and I'd waved at you, but I hadn't talked to you. It was only Sarah and Bron. And then Sarah came over to me and said, "Steph's dead." And I, didn't quite understand it. But then the whole shop was a tomb for the rest of the day because, one, we didn't understand. But then that Chronicle article about the accident all of a sudden dawned on my brain and I put the two together and I went, "Holy crap." I think I tried ringing you, but you didn't pick up your phone anyway. And we didn't see you for ages again after that.
No, I probably reclused myself.
Yeah,
Fair while.
yeah, you're a fair while. It was that was then, and it wasn't weird, but it was almost like the ghost had walked in and the ghost had walked out again because you'd sort of appeared and you were just following your instructions
She had a book. So she had me organised. So, like I said, she did save me a little bit.
Yeah.
But she had a book with things like she got me back on track with paying the bills on time, getting customers done. She was doing uni. She was playing Mountaineers. So she played Mountaineers basketball, playing state basketball, PE teacher.
It wasn't like she was as bad as you and doing.
No, she was a goer, and she got me back. She got me back to the Sam that needed to be there.
For those who don't know, Steph was in a car accident.
She was
Going actually
coming back.
back.
It was their last. It was the last game of the season. They were coming back from Bundaberg,
That's right.
and they got cleaned up by a drug driver near Kingaroy.
Yeah.
And that bloke bloody survived.
That's the pair I don't understand the universe.
But if we get into this a bit deeper, you'll see my frustration and Steph's parents and their family as well, because I talked to them quite a bit. But they were coming back from Bundaberg, and that happened. And it was at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday, and I was chilling out home on the couch, expecting my girlfriend to come home, and it didn't happen that way.
No.
Like, how it all pieced together is very clear. Like, in just getting the words out are a little bit hard. But
Take all your time you need.
oh no, that's right. I told you I was ready. It's well, how long has it been since 2012? It's at
13 years.
So it's been 13 years.
Yeah.
So I thought I made peace with it, but on Saturday night I was telling some friends, we're at the Garbo, and it wasn't even to do with me coming in here. It's just that I probably thought it was time to kill them. But I didn't get too far in because I knew it wasn't the time because I was drinking. And but yeah, they were coming back. They got cleaned up by old mate, and I was very confused because it was Steph and her friend Stacey were killed in the same accident. And it's all a matter of placement. So, but I'm not going to go there.
Yep.
Because it's happened.
Yep.
But I expected her to be returning on the bus, the team bus. And she didn't tell me because she was sneaky with things to do with me, like surprising me. So she got in a car with her teammates to drive back, and she had her 2 kids in the car as well.
I didn't know that.
So they were in a Prado. And they obviously didn't make it, but Steph had not told me. I've since found out later she was trying to surprise me to get home earlier instead of waiting for the team bus. That's the sole reason she got in the car. Nothing to do with travelling with those people. She wanted to get home earlier. Because I dropped her off on, must have been Thursday morning, on Friday morning early, down at the old basketball courts near the golf club. It's since been demolished.
So, how long from the 4 o'clock of the accident did it take you to find out?
Wasn't long.
Very different to, obviously, your brother.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah.
I got a phone call from Steph's sister, Larissa.
Mm-hmm.
She said she was in the car coming to my house to pick me up, to take me to Pittsworth, which is where their family house is, because there has been an accident. And I was like, she said, Steph's been in an accident. And I don't think then that they knew the extent.
Yep.
But there was a gap because they were driving from Ipswich. So there was a gap of, but they must have been driving extraordinary speeds because
Didn't take
on. And I understand why. That family, the Mylands family, is buried. They're Greek.
Yep.
They're very family.
Yep. And
that's what I loved about it. But by the time, before Larissa got to the house, like I was on my own. Who was I going to ring? I tried ringing Steph's parents, the house phone. No one was answering that. I tried to ring everybody's mobile. Of course they weren't going to answer me. They've just...
It was all happening for them too.
So it turns out that Tomo, the butcher in Pittsworth, was in the house and he picked the phone up in the house. I said, he goes, it's Tomo speaking. I was like, what the fucking hell is Tomo doing in their house? I said, Tomo, what's going on? I said, what's this about an accident? I said, I'm freaking out. I said, what? He goes, oh, mate, Steph's dead. She's died. Those were his words to me. I was like, what? How? What? He goes, I've got to go. I said, is this bullshit? I said, this is some kind of sick joke or what? He goes, no, it's not bullshit, sir. No. And I'm like, fuck, So then, after that, I had my phone and I threw the fucking thing, like, at the wall. Couldn't believe it. It's like lightning strikes. But it wasn't only that. It was that, it has happened to me. Again. But probably more deeper because,
This was the girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm trying to work even how you process that.
No, I didn't. I got in the car, and this is what takes me back to, how I told you about Dad with my brother. I started to take it pretty calmly at that time. I didn't believe it. I needed to know. I needed to know more. We didn't have any info. All I knew is that she died and that I was getting in a car going to Pittsworth. But Larissa didn't know that I'd been talking to Tomo. And I was trying to tell him in the car, but obviously it's too emotional. And it's their sister, so obviously they love her more than I do. Or maybe not, or yes, but they do, because it's their family. And it's a different kind of love, and as I know with my brother. And I just don't know, I just couldn't believe it. But until I got to Pittsworth, and then someone tells you face to face that has happened, and it's just, it was just devastating. You can't There's not even a word for it.
No, I got nothing.
But I rang my dad. I just was in tears. And he couldn't work out what I was blabbering on about. And then when he got the gist, because Dad knows and he's strong, and I just said, I need you, Dad, can you come? And he did.
I'm trying to work out the next piece to say.
It's hard. I can't believe I'm not laughing. I'm just, it's just, I still can't believe it. I just.
So you managed to get to the house.
Can't believe I'm crying on a bloody podcast.
Well, I got proof you see, so I can do it against you. So you've all made it to the house. You've all started to get, and that's all the emotions happening. It's all rolling.
It was a pretty calm sort of process because I think everybody it was just dumbfounding.
Yep.
Someone arrived from the Pittsworth Hotel with 4 bottles of Frangelico, 3 bottles of rum, cartons of beer, because it had to be drank. What else do you do? What else do you do? But I think they had a family table in the kitchen, and it was just, we were just sitting there trying to process what the hell had just happened.
So you've gone from, you're at the table, all this has happened. At what point did it dawn that you're going to have this funerals to organise, that your whole life was about to change again?
I was sleeping in a bunk bed in their house that night, and I just laid awake. And I shot a text message to her, because that's what you do. I could probably find it in my phone too. And then I think I only ever sent one. That was it.
Because as I know from our experience, that you virtually became a recluse because the grief just...
Yeah, and you're alone because I was you nearly spend every waking minute with that person.
Yeah.
You sleep with them and they're in your bed. And this is what got me on Saturday night is I said to the boys, the worst part about the whole thing is that she actually really loved me. To the bones. And it took me a long time in between Beck to get to Steph. And then there was just this light was there. And gone. Like that.
And then you've got to navigate, and as we said, that evil creature, the grief, how you...
I'll still do it.
Oh, you make me see it. My wife says grief never goes away. It just gives you a break from time to time.
Oh, for the life of me, I couldn't believe that it happened to me twice. From them, except for your parents, from the 2 people that you love the most.
And
my story's not unique either. There's plenty more people that are worse off.
Well, Tila's mother died in, I think it was May off the top of my head. Funerals, all the bits and pieces, COVID. And we had our first holiday in years, and her father had a massive heart attack on the couch.
Watching cricket.
And that was, 3-4 months later? Just...
Yeah.
And that's my experience sitting beside someone going through it. I know Tila went, I call it going dark. She was dark for 12, 18 months, and she had a support network. I just made the world work. I just said, you do whatever your grief is. But it pales in, as I said, you're alone. Especially in here.
Yeah, because my mum and dad lived in Mackay at the time. So, of course, I suppose the story isn't staggering, but when they all leave, they're in the house for a week.
Yep.
They all leave. Then you are on your own. And then there's things in the house, there's
reminders.
Yeah. Well, our house was kitted out. It was built by us. Like she made the house, as like my wife has now. She has made the house that we have, and Steph made the house. She got me motivated to finish things that I never finished.
At what point, with you talk about, we'll go back to our experience, and the length of time that you were, but then that recluseness, the loneliness. Well, you and I have touched on a few things that your time in that, you didn't make some terribly good moves in your life, whether it be business or personal.
No.
Can you touch on some of that if you're comfortable?
Yeah. I think once, I told you on the phone when we were speaking a couple of weeks ago that Dad had, before he left, before Mum and Dad went back to Mackay, Dad must have stayed a few more days, but he said, you've got to get back to work. I couldn't see that happening.
Got to keep moving.
Because what for? Yeah. Because what for? And then we had to do the funeral process, which was peaceful but terrible. And also I saw Steph as well. And her family were very good. They actually wanted me to do that first before them. Very surprising.
That's awesome.
It was very good, but bad. But
did you go by yourself?
yeah.
I'm getting a pattern here.
But I did it better because I could talk to her, but she just couldn't talk to me back. And I knew then that it was real. I had to. You have to see that. And Dad was telling me, "No, don't go. Don't." He's in the car park. We're at Heritage Funerals in town. He goes, "Don't go in there. Don't do it." I was like,
"Did it help?"
Yeah, certainly did.
So funeral's done, all gone. You're talking to me about the period after, a little bit around the alcohol side and some of the...
Well, because business was still good, so I had some money to burn, and I just shouldn't have thought it like that. And this is one of my regrets, is that the grief had me that bad that all I did was drink. And I would hide under the doona and just wait for the sun to go down again the next day, and then just keep drinking again. And that probably went on for a couple of weeks. But then Dad got me to snap out of it a bit. Well, he must have been gone by then, but he told me I've got to go back to work. And I went to do a hot water system for a lady out in Carney Springs. I don't even know how I got through the damn job. Like, I was just a moping mess. But I did it, and then I realised that things are going to get any better. But the going out and the drinking and the bad idea.
Yeah.
Bad. But I was on my own. I did have a group of friends, but I didn't want to see them.
No.
I didn't want them to come to my house. I didn't want them to tell me that it was going to be okay, because no one can.
No. But
you've got to do it on your own. You have to do it your own way. Like, I was probably sitting...
I remember saying to Tila one day, going, come on, it's time. It's been long enough. And the moment I said it, I knew I'd said the wrong thing. Because, we didn't talk for a week, I don't think. Because just grief is such a thing that it has to cure itself to a point.
Yeah, and everyone does it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
It probably wasn't as bad as the way I say it was, but there was those couple of weeks where you just can't move. You're sick.
Yeah.
And you got to come to the realisation that you are on your own now. And maybe other people don't see it that way because they haven't lived in what has happened, or that it hasn't happened to them.
No, and there's so many people in this world who go, just snap out of it, you'll be right.
Yeah, I had people say that to me.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at them going, you've got no idea.
No. Did the business suffer much over a period of time from?
Look, it probably, no, by the time I snapped out, look, it probably did a little bit because I had to go back to paying the bills and things, and I had no idea what our internet banking password was. And I don't to this date. You ask Vicky, if she'd say, if she died, we'd be in a world of trouble because I can't even get into the banking. But it did and it didn't, because Steph had got me back on track. She had got me traction with new work, builders. The life actually got
done good. So, your second major loss in your life, you eventually move into the rebuilding phase of, you know what, I have to rebuild. And then I always have a section around the mental health and resilience and things.
Well, it happens gradually, I think.
Yeah.
Look, it's small steps of, like I was spending my time at Pittsworth, that probably rebuilt me. That probably spending time with her family actually made it better. And we all still get along. I talk to Steph's dad occasionally, probably not as much as I used to.
Yeah.
Because I'm busy at life and I shouldn't make excuse for that either.
We make very good excuses, like, oh, I've got to have that steak sandwich. Yeah, we do. And we'll leave that for 12 months.
Yeah. But this year I've changed. I've started doing more things for myself. But yeah, the mental health part of things, and it still gets me to this day. Like I am very, very strong, and I can just attack anything. If I set my mind to it, it can get done. If I say, Graham, I'm going to have $1 million by next week, I'll probably get it. I don't know where I'd get it from.
But off you go and just give me half.
But that's the attitude I'll have. It's that the kids at school call it Ricky resilience, but I've got Sam resilience, because I've had to bear all of this emotional roller coaster. Well, even having to move from our family farm at Warra, that was terrible for us as kids, because that was our place.
Yeah.
That was our castle. So those scars along the way bear brunt as well.
Yeah. They also give you tools.
They do give you tools. Yeah. I've got a whole roll of tools.
Absolutely.
You roll them out.
Yeah, and that's probably what we've talked a fair bit of sad, not sad, but grief and struggle and pain.
Yeah.
But the thing I've learned out of all that is the tools it gives you to handle the positive and the good stuff to go forward. I find you respect it more, because
yes,
it's not grateful is the wrong word, but you want to, the second chance and the ability to be able to go, you know what, I can do good things.
And I think as a business owner, once you realise the value of money, which I knew a long time ago, but if you don't have any to start with, it can be a struggle. But once you realise the value of money, you don't have to worry about it then.
And the realisation that everything just costs.
It does cost.
There's no way around it.
Yeah.
So now we're going to get into some positive stuff.
There's lots of positive.
There's lots of positive stuff.
And there has been along the way.
So we're going to talk something positive. We're going to talk Vicky. So having dealt with Vicky a lot, I'm very fond of her. She makes me laugh, actually. But I can see how she keeps you organised.
Oh, yeah, she keeps me organised.
Marching in here with all the kids and things. And
she is she likes things to be organised, which is good.
No, that's great. Tell us, Vicky, the rebuild, her, I'm assuming it was a big step to step into another relationship that, you must have had some fears and worries and...
Yes. And I think maybe Vicky did at the start, or probably still does. You'd have to ask her, but she probably still does fear all of those things, that she won't be able to meet the expectations of Steph. But none of that's true. And I tell her all the time, it's completely different. You can't, it's not comparable, because it can't be.
No.
And that was a struggle at the start. And probably we met, I knew her from beforehand. I probably met her in 2011 somewhere, but I didn't take any, not any notice, but I just wasn't, it was just a meet. And then we sort of met at the Irish Club Hotel in town. She was on one of the speed dating things.
All right.
I wasn't. I was just there to have a few beers with some mates. And I got talking to her, and she, of course, she hung on every word that I said, because I'm Sam Collins, you know.
You want to write yourself some more tickets while we're sitting there?
No, I tell her this way to her. I forgot this story, but no, I tell her that she hung on her head. She said, no, I didn't. No, but she did. She did listen to what I had to say, and we caught up a couple of weeks later, and it's not that I wasn't so sure about the stuff. I thought, oh, am I doing it? Is this the right time? Is it too soon? I had all those things. So that comes back into the, and yes, it was, it probably wasn't and was, because if I didn't do it then, when are you going to do it?
Yep.
And if you meet the right person, well, you have to.
Absolutely.
And Vicky's a lot different to me. She's a lot different to Steph. She's her own. She's strong. She wouldn't have been my typical girlfriend at the time. She was totally different. I think that's what makes her attractive. And that's what made me love her. Yeah. And it took a bit of growing at the start, because, of course, all of the things to do with Steph were quite difficult for her to deal with as well. So there was probably time where maybe we weren't going to make it. And I'm glad we did, because we've got 3 beautiful kids.
Sophie, Harvey,
Harvey and Pippa. And Sophie's 10 this year.
Oh, you're coming into the good times.
But going back to the business with, and Vicky got me straightened up straight away. She's very proactive. So that was another good thing. And we liked each other. We clashed a bit because of things. We still clash today, but that's husband and wife.
No, yeah, it's part of the show.
Yeah. And once we had Sophie, that was one of the best things that's ever happened.
It changes your view when you have kids, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, but I turned, it wasn't even about that. It just turned me into double Sam. Overdrive. And it just happened overnight. I went from just having a plumbing business with me and one other bloke, or we had 20 blokes at one stage, stock for in the past. And then I was like, okay, I need to make $20 million by 2030, or I'm not worth anything.
Yep.
I've got these kids to pay for.
And you pay in many ways.
I'm nowhere near 20 million, but
You're trying.
I'm trying.
So, you know, it's almost like you reimagined, you regrew, and you've almost got and renewed your drive to succeed.
Yes, and the catalyst to start with was meeting Vicky, but the kids have fulfilled me. I could have more.
No, I've got my lot, and I'm okay.
Well, Harvey's he's my only son. He's 8 this year.
Is he a chip off the old block?
Oh, if you saw a photo of the 3 of them, you'd go, oh shit, that Sam's the dad. Not the postman. It's not the postman. And we've got Pippa, who she's new on the scene, so she's only 18 months old, and she will either kill me or keep me alive till 90.
Well,
she's a rat bag.
You haven't met Nova yet, so she's the one.
But I've seen your Facebook post where she sleeps everywhere. Our kids don't sleep, Graham. None of them. Not any 3 of them. They don't sleep.
No. Well, we joke that Nova's going to rule the world on a throne of skulls.
Oh, she might.
She's just driven at everything she does. There are days when I just okay, can you just give me 5? Not a bit.
Oh yeah, Pippa's like that, and her little face, because the other 2 are getting older. So Sophie's nearly 10. So when they get to 10, they start removing themselves from you a little bit.
Yeah,
and I haven't been home much either. Like,
you call it there. I call it you stop being God.
Yeah. Yes, but I think it's Vicky and her probably clash more because they're the same.
Yeah,
they're the same. You know, mother daughter, and I love it. But I'm the calming influence over the situation until Dad explodes. So on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, it's when we get the shits with the whole thing, you know,
Oh, yeah,
it's bad after that.
You can't give them the strap like our parents would have. Oh, I definitely got the strap.
I copped my share and deserved every bit of it.
Yeah, so did I. Wouldn't be the man I am today without it.
So if you look at what you and Vicky are building now, are you a different businessman to what you were 15 years ago to what you are now?
Yeah. I think because I've super speeded myself and I give myself some kind of goal, because if you don't, maybe I didn't have a future goal back then. Maybe I was just living it week to week and I was doing well, but then not. And then there was...
But you also got the right person behind you too.
Yeah. I couldn't do it without Vicky.
No, I'm like, I couldn't do this without Tila. I just know that you got that right person backing you.
And just at the right or the wrong time, I'll ring her during the day. I need you to get to the computer. You know, you've got to pay Hip Pocket. You know.
Then they utter that loving sentence at you that we can't put on camera.
Yeah. Pippa's doing something or...
And breaking the third wall. All over here has a very big laugh on her face because she knows exactly the sentence.
Yeah, and because I'm at work and I'm like... I'm like on steroids at work.
Yeah.
800 phone calls a day, organising this. I've calmed down a little bit, but I'm organising that.
700 phone.
And then I just treat Vicky like an employee. I'm like, can you do this now? This has to be done by 12 o'clock. And then I forget that she's my wife sometimes.
Does that she woo you up?
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, I deserve it too.
I deserve it.
If there's a lesson that you would have figured out earlier, and I'm going to make it do 2 bits. The lesson in your business that you wish you'd figured out earlier, which you did answer before, but what's your personal lesson that you wish you'd figured out earlier?
Well, the business one we know.
Chasing the money.
Chase the money.
Yep.
Personal one. I don't think you can even ask yourself that question because you've got to build it through the journey.
Yeah.
You can't be the person you are without having to do that. Even if you could change one thing, then it's going to change another.
A ripple effect.
Yeah,
or butterfly effect.
It's like the idea of time travel. Like, if I could go back and bring my brother back, well, what's going to happen then?
Yeah. I know the dinosaurs might turn up.
Yeah. You can't. I can't be the person I am today without all of those things happening. And the quicker well, maybe that's what it is. Maybe I should have realised that earlier, but I couldn't tell myself as a younger person.
Yeah, but one of my notes here.
There's a stupid answer.
Yeah, no, it's good. But I do have one, probably a side question in it. One of the things, like when I first started working in Dad's businesses, excuse me, and then even here, and you see it as I get a lot of young tradies who are starting out and getting going and things, and you see people grab them and they take them for what they can get out of them because they don't have the experience of guiding them.
That happened to me.
I've had them in here where they've gone to the signwriting guy to get their trailer decked, and it's bloody huge amount of money. And I'm going, how much cash you got in the bank? I've got 10 grand.
I need that.
No, I said.
Well, I started my business with $250 or $500 in the bank.
Yeah. So what was your take advantage of moment that you realised you were having to lend?
That people were having to lend it.
Yeah.
Well, there's too many to mention. Well, it's probably, I probably give too much. So it's multiple things, and maybe I should have been. I'm trying to think of a nice word to say.
It's okay. We're not regulated by anyone.
I probably should have been more of a prick to people than be nice to them, because they're not nice back.
No.
Especially the people that take advantage of you. And now I've learnt the lesson as a 45-year-old that I still am nice to them, but I can probably press it harder because I don't care what they think anymore.
Would you call that your hard way lesson? The bit that, the bit you learned the hard way was if you're just incredibly nice all the time?
Yeah, and it got me into all sorts of trouble.
Because it makes you overpromise too.
Yes.
And then you underdeliver.
I'm a yes man, was never a no man.
Oh, absolutely, yes, man. Yeah, I do it all the time. Ask my girls.
I still am guilty of doing it. You overextend yourself, but you know you've got some kind of capability. Back then, I was a one-man show doing 800 plumbing jobs in 1 week. Like, you can't please everybody.
No. I want people to take something out of this story that, you know, it can be shit. It can be the shittest thing in your entire life. But then you're still sitting here married, beautiful wife, 3 kids that are your world, and you can still do it.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe to the world itself is that people have it too easy now. Money comes too easy, people come too easy, and you get complacent. Yeah. And this is
where it's all ripped.
This is me now saying that people are too soft. Nothing has happened to them in their life. You know how we talked about wars?
Yeah.
We haven't had to experience that. Australia is such a good country. But on the other hand, this is maybe my opinion, but this doesn't help with people's mental ability to cope with things.
No, when it gets tough.
And it can be so minor. And we experienced that with staff in the past that they'll just start bursting into tears because they can't. They throw their lolly over something that is meaningless.
And unfortunately, you know, the way I teach, even my team here, you know, I said, look, there's what you think's okay, there's what the rest of the world thinks okay, but then there's what's going to be accepted. And if you are going to put yourself in a position for working for yourself, sales or whatever it might be, I fully believe it's okay not to be okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no problem with that because you need to be able to cope with those things. And I think we mollycoddle people.
Yeah, but to perform a lot of these roles, even working for yourself, if you can't pull yourself up and go, right, this is what I need to complete. This is what I need to do to get it done. This is what I need to get the sale. Then you're just going to fail.
Yeah.
You know, no one's going to give it to you.
And this comes down to why people don't want to work anymore because they don't want to try. They come too easy. Because until you, like I said, you'll never know the value of money until you understand the value of money. And I
never understood that when my grandfather said to me, he said, you need to understand the value of $1.
Yeah.
I didn't understand it until probably in the last couple of years.
Yeah, me too, probably. I was easy come, easy go. But now I won't buy anything if I can't afford it.
Yep.
I won't go and get a bank loan for $1 million car. I'll make sure I have the money to buy it first and then I'll do it.
So we're coming to the end. I have what I call the book of questions. So every guest we have gets to read the question that the guest before them wrote in there. Simon, the musician, wrote the last of the question in here. I don't actually know what it is, but you get to read it and then you need to come up with an answer for it. Then you get to write your own in.
Yeah, well, I haven't thought about that question though, but...
If you're from around here, chances are you've worn something that we've embroidered, printed, pressed, or branded. Whatever it is, we just get it done. So if you need something, drop in and see us. And you have to read it out loud.
Who is God to you? Interesting one. And this might actually suit me better than you think. But I'm not a religious man. But I am Christian because I have those values. But I don't think that God has done me any favours. But he probably has.
You just haven't seen it.
Whether I believe in God or not, I'm not so sure. But having moral values and accepting when you can make a mistake, that's where my part of Christianity probably is. And that we try to teach our kids. But God to me is, if you want an honest answer, he's probably not my friend. Yeah, but he has helped me, if he is there, in the wrong kind of way.
Yeah. Do you have a question I'll put in the book? You want to think about it for a minute?
I might have to think about the question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, while you're thinking about it, what's coming up for PG, plumbing, gas, and earth moving.
We've got some exciting projects. We're doing a shed for GFG, which is FK Gardeners,
Yep.
at the moment for Savannah Energy out near the RDO.
Yep.
We've just completed the RDO and Emerald for GFG.
Yep.
We've got some new builders on. We've parted way with some customers. The change into commercial plumbing. We've always had that. Staffing levels are a challenge. But look, we've got some stuff going. I want to do a bit more personal investment.
Yep.
Probably because we can look into that now. Look, we do have some exciting stuff going on. I want more.
I think you'll always want more.
Yeah. I always like to have employees, and I like them to be happy, which is hard, but I also like to be a teacher.
Yep.
Because I can show them how I was shown, or I've improved myself over the time. Yeah, and it's a hard task, and they enjoy the work that we're doing, and we've got lots of stuff coming, lots of stuff in the pipeline.
Oh, good.
I'm not sign writing my trailer or anything.
Well, I know a guy who can help. Well, mate, that's about it.
It's good.
Thank you very much for being here on the show.
Thanks for having me.
PG Plumbing, gas, and earth moving. I think you have a functioning website. You find you on social media around the
You can find
traps.
us on social media, Instagram,
Yep.
all those.
Yep. All your commercial plumbing needs. Go find us.
Commercial, domestic, anything you like. Yep.
With the hard way, you can find us on Apple Podcast. You can find us on mental blanking.
YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah, YouTube and Spotify. Thank you from the back. Just thank you very much for looking, mate. It has been an absolute pleasure. We'll look forward to see how this all edits up. I think it's going to be fantastic.